In the heart of Detroit's 8 Mile lies the city's biggest and baddest pawn shop.
Nobody messes with us here.
And sometimes lose their minds.
Call the cops!
You won't believe
Oh my God!
what's in store.
My kid could have got killed!
Les Gold, the boss of Hardcore Pawn, has finally spoken out about the most dishonest person he ever worked with. And his story is shocking fans of the show. Even with all the chaos and deals at his shop, there was one specific employee who crossed a line so badly that Les says he will never forget it. Who was the employee that pushed him to the edge? And what exactly did they do that was so bad it still haunts the shop today? Join us as we uncover the shocking story. The day Les Gold stopped pretending everything was fine.
94 shows, it's a milestone, almost the milestone I'm looking for. I'm looking for show 100. We'll get it shortly.
What have we got?
A couple of antiques from the 1950s.
Okay.
They're from old diners. They dispense the napkins, of course, and also fortunes.
Les Gold is famous for speaking his mind, and he definitely lived up to that name. For 9 seasons on Hardcore Pawn, he was never afraid to fire employees on camera, fight with his kids in front of millions, or say blunt things to customers that most bosses would keep to themselves. He was never someone who ran out of things to say. Because he is usually so loud and honest, his silence is a big deal. For years after the show ended, Les talked about his business, his city, and his children. But there was one specific person and one part of the show's past that he refused to mention. He would talk about almost anything else, but he went out of his way to avoid that one specific story. That changed when Les finally started speaking openly in interviews and podcasts about what he called the darkest time of his career. Instead of being careful with his words, he finally confirmed what fans had suspected for years. He wasn't just dealing with a bad business deal, but a deep personal betrayal. Les revealed that someone he treated like family and defended for 6 seasons on the show had actually been stealing from the business he spent his whole life building. The man Les Gold is talking about is Joel Shannon, known to every Hardcore Pawn viewer as Big Joe. And the full story of what Big Joe allegedly did, how he did it, how long he got away with it, and what it cost Les Gold personally and professionally is considerably more damaging than the 2 episodes the show dedicated to his arrest ever revealed. To understand the true scale of the betrayal, you need to go back to the very beginning of their relationship, long before any cameras ever arrived at 8 Mile Road. Les Gold did not discover that Big Joe was stealing from him by accident, he was told. And the person who allegedly told him was not a detective or a network executive or a sharp-eyed member of his own family. According to what Les has shared in recent interviews, the evidence came from inside the shop itself, from a surveillance system that had been recording things that Les had not been watching closely enough. When the full picture finally assembled itself in front of him, Les Gold, a man who had spent 40 years building a reputation for never being fooled, had to sit with the reality that he had been fooled for a very long time by someone he saw every single day. But how did a man Les trusted for years end up betraying him behind the scenes? And who was Big Joe really when the cameras were not watching? The man who played Les Gold for 6 seasons.
Yeah, hi, this is Les Gold from American Jewelry. I have an employee theft. I just called the cops. They're on their way. Make sure he doesn't go in the back. Make sure he's available, and make sure he doesn't run out of the store.
Here is what Les Gold told his audience about Big Joe for 6 full seasons of national television. He told them that Joe Shannon was loyal, that he was tough, that he was funny, and that he was exactly the kind of man you wanted standing between your business and the people who might want to take something from it. Les vooched for Big Joe with his platform and his name, episode after episode, season after season. He laughed with him on camera, he backed him up in front of staff, he made Big Joe a central character in the story of American Jewelry and Loan, because he genuinely believed that Big Joe deserved that position. That belief, Les has since said, was one of the most expensive mistakes he ever made. While Les Gold was publicly sticking up for Big Joe was reportedly stealing from him behind his back. This wasn't just a one-time mistake. He was allegedly taking scrap gold and loose diamonds from the jewelry desk over a long period of time. Although the specific theft caught on camera for the Season 6 finale involved about $7,000 worth of items, Les has recently hinted that this number only represents what they actually caught him doing, not the full amount that was truly stolen. Les Gold has been very open about the fact that losing the money was not the part that hurt him the most. He has explained it clearly. While the missing cash and jewelry provided the physical evidence of a crime, the much bigger issue was the total destruction of their relationship. To Les, the most painful part was that Big Joe understood exactly how much trust had been placed in him. Instead of honoring that bond, Joe allegedly made a conscious, calculated decision to use that trust as a way to steal from the shop for a long time. Les believes that making such a cold choice is what makes Big Joe the most evil person he has ever encountered in his career. In his mind, the actual act of theft is bad, but the choice to betray a close friend who publicly defended him is what truly made the situation unforgivable. Les has finally addressed the difficult question that has bothered him for many years. How did a man with so much experience miss what was happening right in front of him? He explained that Big Joe had essentially studied him like a student, learning exactly how to behave to gain his complete trust. According to Les, Big Joe acted with such consistent loyalty and charm that he was able to fool him entirely. This was especially hard for Les to accept because he had spent over 40 years learning how to read people's true intentions across a pawn shop counter. Even with all those decades of practice spotting lies, he admitted that Big Joe was so good at performing the role of a trusted friend that the truth remained hidden for a long time. But the version viewers saw on television was only part of what really happened that day. So what did Les Gold feel in that moment that the show never allowed him to say out loud? What the show never let Les say.
I'm here this morning with my good friend Les Gold, the famous pawnbroker from the show Hardcore Pawn, a guy that is known around the world and has become clearly the most famous guy in pawn. And Les, my first question for you today is, do you ever feel unsafe with all the exposure?
Here is something the broadcast version of Big Joe's arrest never fully addressed. When the Season 6 footage of Joe Shannon being caught and confronted aired on True TV, the show treated it as a dramatic episode, a shocking twist in the ongoing story of American jewelry and loan. The cameras captured the confrontation, the firing, and the arrival of the police. But what the cameras did not capture, and what the production had no interest in exploring on air, was what Les Gold actually felt in that moment, and in the weeks and months that followed. The show needed the story to be contained. Les Gold needed it to be the opposite. Les has spent a lot of time talking about what it was actually like to confront Big Joe in front of his entire staff, while the cameras filmed every single second. He has described this as one of the most deeply embarrassing and humiliating moments of his entire professional career. The pain didn't come from being wrong about the theft, but from the fact that his real-life heartbreak was being turned into entertainment for a television show. In that moment, he wasn't just a boss dealing with a serious personal betrayal. He was being treated like a TV character, acting out a dramatic plot twist for the viewers at home. Les has admitted that he still hasn't fully gotten over the struggle of trying to deal with his private feelings, while the show's producers needed him to perform a big reaction for the audience. After the arrest, Les Gold had to keep running his shop even though his most popular employee had just been caught stealing from him. Since the show was a huge hit, the cameras stayed rolling for Season 7 to give the audience the drama they expected. While the show moved on with new security and record-breaking views, Les had to keep acting like his usual self on screen. Privately, however, He was still struggling with the situation and wondering what else might have been stolen that he hadn't found yet. Les has been very honest about how being on TV made a painful situation even worse. In a normal business, a betrayal like this is handled privately with an investigation and a resolution. But in reality TV, the situation becomes public before the victim can even process their feelings. Les had to act out his reaction to the worst moment of his career while cameras were watching. He has said that he wouldn't recommend that experience to anyone. But the moment Big Joe was exposed was only part of the story. What did Les Gold really feel during that confrontation that the cameras never showed? The full accounting Les Gold has been building toward. When Les Gold talks about Big Joe these days, he doesn't treat the situation like a dramatic scene from a TV show anymore. He is no longer focused on trying to entertain an audience or manage a story for a cable network. Instead, he is speaking honestly about what it actually felt like to have a person he trusted with the physical security of his entire business, allegedly using that very position to steal from him over and over again. In his most recent discussions, Les has pointed out that theft is not the right word to describe what truly happened. He believes the only word that fits is betrayal. He chooses that specific word to show how deeply the situation hurt him on a personal level, far beyond the value of the missing items. To him, the crime wasn't just about the money taken from the shop. It was about the total destruction of a deep personal bond that he had cherished for years. Les has also been much more honest than he was on the show about how long the stealing supposedly lasted. He no longer believes that the $7,000 caught on camera was the whole story. While he is careful with his words, he has hinted that what the police found was only a small part of what was actually taken from his shop over the years. The private investigation after the arrest found things that the TV show never mentioned. Les suggests that these hidden details are the reason he stayed silent about Big Joe for such a long time. Les has also talked about how it felt to be Big Joe's biggest supporter on TV. For years, Les went on camera and told millions of viewers that Joe was a person they could trust and someone who represented the best of his shop. Every time he praised Joe, he was accidentally making the future betrayal much more painful. When the arrest finally happened, it wasn't just a story about an employee stealing from a boss. It was a story about a boss who was completely wrong about someone he had staked his reputation on. Les has been very open about the fact that this blow to his credibility hurt him deeply. Reports say that Les and Joe have made up since the show ended, but Les explains it in a more complicated way than a simple yes or no. While he doesn't deny they have some kind of relationship now, he makes it clear that being on speaking terms isn't the same as forgiving or forgetting what happened. Even years later, Les says he is still processing the full impact of what Big Joe allegedly did to his business. But Big Joe may not have been the only betrayal Les now looks back on differently. As the years passed and the dust settled, was he beginning to see a much bigger pattern behind the people who walked out of American Jewelry and Loan? The other betrayals, Les is only now connecting the dots about. Besides Big Joe, who was the most obvious problem, there are other disappointments. For example, Rich Pyle had been the store manager for 25 years before the show even started, but he left after 6 seasons without a clear explanation. On TV, it looked like they had a small fight, and although Rich apologized, he was eventually off the show for good. Les never publicly explained why Rich left, but his recent comments suggest there was much more to the story than he originally led on. Les has hinted that Rich Pyle's departure was related to the breakdown in the shop's culture. He hasn't clearly said if Rich did something specific, or if Les just felt let down by the people he trusted most. Either way, it seems the problems the public saw with Big Joe were just one part of a much bigger issue behind the scenes. Then there is Bobby Janiak, known as Bobby J, who left the shop in 2016 and later claimed on social media that Les Gold had taken advantage of him. Bobby never gave specific details, and his claims were never proven in court, but people were already eager to believe bad things about the show. Les Gold never responded to Bobby's comments at the time. Since then, Les has bluntly stated that staying silent was a choice. He believes some accusations don't deserve a serious answer, and that the people who are actually there know the truth. What connects all of these stories, from Big Joe to Rich Pyle to Bobby Janiak, is something Les Gold himself has started articulating in a way he never did while the show was running. He has said that the television format created a specific kind of vulnerability that his business, and he personally, were not fully equipped to navigate. When you open your workplace to cameras and build your public identity around the authenticity of what those cameras capture, you create opportunities for people who understand how to exploit that authenticity for their own purposes, and that he, Les Gold, experienced the full cost of that vulnerability across 9 seasons of a show he had entered with the best of intentions and the worst of luck in choosing certain people to stand beside him. But silence like that rarely lasts forever. So what finally pushed Les Gold to break his silence after so many years? Why Les Gold stayed quiet for so long? The reasons why Les Gold waited such a long time to speak openly about Big Joe and other betrayals are much more layered than they might seem at first. The most straightforward reason was purely legal. Whenever an employee is arrested for a crime like theft and the case moves through the court system, lawyers almost always advise everyone involved to keep their mouths shut and avoid making public comments. Les followed this professional legal advice very carefully during the entire time that Joe Shannon's case was active in the justice system. However, even after the legal situation was finally resolved, Les found that he had simply gotten into the habit of staying silent. After years of being forced to use caution and discretion, that habit became very difficult to break, and it took a long time for him to feel comfortable sharing his side of the story. There was also a deeper reason that Les has talked about more lately: his pride. He is very self-aware about this. Les Gold's whole career is built on the idea that he is an expert at reading people and running a tough business. Publicly admitting that someone worked for him for years and stole from him, all while pretending to be a loyal friend on TV, meant admitting his judgment had failed. When your entire reputation is based on being a good judge of character, admitting you were wrong is much more than just embarrassing. It actually hurts your brand. There was also, Les has acknowledged, a specific tension created by the fact that Big Joe was not just an employee. He was a television character. He was someone that millions of people had watched and liked and rooted for across 6 seasons of Hardcore Pawn. Going public with a detailed accounting of what Big Joe had allegedly done would have required Les to deconstruct a character that the show had spent 6 years building in the audience's affections. That is not a simple conversation to have, and it is not one that the existing media formats around Hardcore Pawn were particularly well designed to facilitate. What changed, according to those who know Les well, was time and distance. The show has been off the air long enough that the character of Big Joe has faded somewhat from the immediate cultural conversation, and that distance has made it easier for Les Gold to talk about Joel Shannon, the real person, the man who allegedly stole from him, rather than constantly navigating the gap between that reality and the television version of the same individual. Les has also, by his own account, reached a point in his processing of what happened where continuing to be quiet about it feels more costly than speaking. Do you think Big Joe deserved to be called the most evil person Les ever worked with? And is the picture far darker than any episode of Hardcore Pawn ever suggested? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.